Meet the OnePlus Ace 5, OnePlus's latest launch, one that's probably going to be going global as the OnePlus 13R. So what does this phone bring to the table? Well, let's get the unboxing out of the way and take a detailed look at the Ace 5 in today's video. Now, if this is your first time here, or in case you just can't remember, my name is Ash, you're watching C4E Tech, and if you find this video well shot, interesting, useful, or any of those things, do consider dropping this video a like. Also, if you want to see early coverage of devices before their global launches, well, that's what I do, so don't miss out, hit that subscribe button down below. So yet again, here we are with another typical red OnePlus box with big bold Ace branding. Now guys, I ended up buying the 16256, though the base is 12256, because with OnePlus, the base in China almost never ships first. Anyways, complaints aside, let's remove the plastic covering the box and open it up. Now the first thing we see is this red never settle insert which houses a leaflet and a soft case. I actually like this case. It's got ridges to the back which adds to the grip, and it's something you don't usually see. Next, we get to the OnePlus Ace 5 itself. Let me remove it from its protective cover. I went for the white colorway this time. Well, not exactly white. The official term is gravity titanium. It's got that slight titanium shade to it. It's more prominent when you look at it under warm lights. Anyways, OnePlus also offers this phone in black as well as green. That green, the back there is ceramic, which is nice, but it also adds 17 grams to the weight. Now the other two, they have glass backs. The black, it's supposed to have a silky touch finish, while the white, or titanium, has a ton of concentric circle patterns etched into the glass. In fact, there are so many that you almost don't feel that etching. Now to me, this looks the best, but what about you? Amongst these three, which colorway to you looks the best this year? Leave a comment. Now the glass here, it's Oppo's Crystal Shield. It's the same they've used for the display too. Now the frame on the Ace 5, unlike on other phones in its price segment, is metal and color matched to the back. Now the sides are pretty flat and the thickness is about 8mm for all SKUs. Note that OnePlus have rounded off the edges to improve the comfort factor when you hold the Ace 5. Now to the left we have the smaller alert slider. The profile changes these days show up around the selfie camera in a dynamic island style. There's an IR blaster up top, the support for NFC, Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.4, though the Type-C port, it's USB 2.0, so no video out here. Now there is also an IP65 rating for dust and splash resistance. Overall, I feel OnePlus have done a good job here, though the boxy build, it does take a bit away from ergonomics. That said, if you are a fan of these kind of builds, they do look nice, I'll give it that. And if you happen to really like flat displays, then you're really gonna enjoy your time with the Ace 5 or the OnePlus 13R or whatever it's called. So on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate this build and design? Let me know in the comments below. Now the display on the Ace 5, it's excellent. This here is a large 6.78-inch AMOLED panel with rich and vibrant colors, inky deep blacks, almost symmetric bezels. The resolution here is 1.5K, so it's got a pixel density of 450 ppi, meaning it's quite sharp. The refresh rate is a smooth 120Hz with 80 LTPO support so that it can vary between 1 and 120Hz as needed. With brightness, I tested almost 900 nits under manual mode, a little over 1600 nits under auto, both slightly above what OnePlus has claimed, which is always refreshing. Now this is a 10-bit panel with support for HDR10+ and Dolby Vision, so it's pretty darn good for media consumption, especially when paired with the stereo speakers. Now under low light, in case you're sensitive to OLED flicker, there's 2160Hz high frequency PWM dimming, and there's even an option to switch to DC light dimming if you find that better. Now underneath this display sits an optical fingerprint scanner. I'm not a huge fan of the placement, I find it a little too low. And you know what, let's return back to the box. The SIM tool now gets its own little place in the box, and then there's your typical OnePlus red cable, USB Type-A to Type-C, which is followed by an 80-watt SuperVOOC charger. Using this charger, you should be able to get the OnePlus Ace 5 from 0 to 55% in 15 minutes and 100% in 35, which is very impressive when you take into account the fact that this phone, it's got a 6415 mAh silicon carbon battery. That's pretty huge, right? Now this might be the one thing that could change when it goes global as the OnePlus 13R. We're gonna have to wait and see. Now what is definitely not gonna change though is the chip on the inside. The Ace 5, it's powered by last year's flagship Qualcomm SoC, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. Now that chip, it's paired with 12 or 16 gigs of LPDDR5X RAM and 256, 512 gigs or up to a terabyte of fast UFS 4 storage. The benchmark numbers, they're exactly what we expected. The Ace 5, it didn't run too hot, maxing out at about 43 degrees after a 20-minute stress test. But sadly, that stress test, that's where I also noticed a lot of throttling. The Ace 5, it ended up losing almost half its performance after being pushed for 20 minutes. Now personally, this is one thing I hope OnePlus can fix before this phone goes global, especially given ColorOS here will be replaced by OxygenOS when it launches as the 13R. Now that said, games did run fine, especially since OnePlus does offer options for super resolution and frame generation. Now as I mentioned, this here is ColorOS 15 built atop Android 15, and we've already seen this software on a lot of devices, so I'm not gonna get into the nitty-gritty. But ColorOS 15 ran really well here, smooth and consistent. The full screen multitasking for apps that we saw on OnePlus tablets, it's now found its way over to this phone too. So what do you think about this? Do you prefer it? Do you find it more convenient? Let me know in the comments. And then there's the AI related features that we've already seen. They're also present and accounted for. And on that note, let's talk optics. The OnePlus Ace 5, it's got a triple camera setup, but don't get your hopes up. One of these is a useless 2 megapixel macro, so let's pretty much ignore that. And another is an 8 megapixel ultra wide with fixed focus. Nothing to really write home about. So let's actually focus on the one good sensor here, the primary, which is a 50 megapixel Sony IMX906. That's it. Honestly guys, at this point, I don't really know the difference between the IMX906, the Lite 700, the IMX921, the IMX890. They all seem to be 50 megapixel 1 by 1.56 inch Sony sensors that produce similar quality images. They all seem to be successors to the IMX766. So if you know anything on how to rank these sensors or how to tell them apart, let me know in the comments below. To me, it just feels like they keep calling the same sensor by different names just to confuse us. When we are launching it in one area, we're gonna call it something, and then we're gonna say we upgraded or downgraded by just changing the name somewhere else. It just feels like they wanna screw with the consumers. Anyways, the performance here, it does seem quite good, so I'm not really complaining about the sensor. Now outdoors, you do get slightly warm images, but they are pleasant to look at. There's a good amount of detail, and the dynamic range, nothing to complain about. OnePlus does provide quite a few options for portraits, and they came out quite nicely too. Now even under low light, the highlight processing, it's handled well, and the results quite impressive. Low on noise with proper exposure, as long as, well, let's get to the cons now. Now admittedly, it was minus 15 degrees as it is right now. I don't know if I can show this. Yes, as it is right now. When it happened, the lens on the primary, it does seem to fog up. And video was a huge letdown for me. You can shoot 4K 60 via the primary, but there is a whole ton of EIS jitter. It just makes the footage look awful. Yes, it's crisp, it's stable, but with that EIS jitter, I don't really find the footage usable. Do you think you can make use of this footage? Again, comments. Now even with selfie video, this continued, and selfie video wasn't even good to begin with, 1080-30. Now regular selfies though, via the 16 megapixel Sony IMX480, they did turn out well. Natural skin tones, lots of detail and good dynamic range. Even edge detection for portraits was on point. Anyways, now the Ace 5 in China, it starts from 2299 RMB, which converts to about 27,000 rupees or $315 US. But of course, those prices do shoot up when the phone gets out of China. Like in India, as the 13R, it's expected to come in at about 35 to 40,000 rupees. Now even at that price point, if OnePlus were to fix the throttling, maybe with the switch to OxygenOS and that horrible EIS jitter, I still would find this a pretty darn good deal. Now will OnePlus do that? Only time will tell. So that's pretty much it for the Ace 5. Let me know what you think about this phone in the comments below. And before you go, a quick reminder, in case you've made it this far, please hit that like button and subscribe. Ash out.